Good morning, everyone. It's Stephanie Van Bark, and I am a small business owner. I want to thank you for joining us today because we have a very exciting guest. I actually worked for this gentleman a while ago. I did some freelance writing for him, so I'm really excited to be able to interview him today and share a little what I already know with you. His name is Dexter Bridgeman of MIA Media Group. Let's say hello to Dexter Bridgeman.
Afternoon. Good morning. Good morning, Stephanie. How are you?
How are you? Thank you for joining me. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Where'd he go? Hold on. Wait, he should be coming back soon. Until he comes back, I do want to kind of just share my interaction with him many, many years ago. I had an opportunity to meet with Dexter and become a freelance writer for his magazines, one of his magazines. And it was a lot of fun. I really had a chance to meet some very interesting artists, some interesting people. And so I felt like I immediately had to speak to him about how he's making it through the pandemic. Let me text him now and see if we can get him back on. Yes, because I feel like also in the media game right now, it's such a powerful force and a voice. I really wanted us to talk to somebody in that space to see how they're doing during the pandemic. So if you'll allow us a quick moment, I'll see if we can get it back on. If not, then maybe we'll have to reconvene a little bit later. 1 second. Here he comes. Hey, there you are.
Okay, you got me back, huh? All right.
It's like, let me fill in some information until he comes back. Don't worry, I was just telling him about how I used to work with you.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that later. I hope I was a good employee. So let's start with who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Dexter Bridgeman. I am the founder, CEO, and publisher of MIA Media Group, which publishes Legacy Miami, Legacy South Florida, and MIA magazines. We've been around for 16 years here in South Florida. Our publications are distributed. I believe we're the only ones, at least I know that we're only Black publications of our kind that's doing this in the entire United States. We have partnered with the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel to establish a distribution partnership. So when my publication comes out, when it's printed and distributed, it's distributed as an insert inside of the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel. So on the day that it's actually printed, wherever you see the Miami Herald, wherever you see the Sun Sentinel newspapers, you'll see my publication, whether it's delivered door to door with subscription, or whether or not it's at a newsstand, a gas station, at the supermarket, drugstore, or an office building. It's everywhere.
So this situation has not affected your distribution of your product at this point because you are partnered with a major newspaper source.
Well, the thing about it is, I'm a revenue source for them. How about that? I pay them. I pay them. Let me speak to be very succinct here. When I say I'm a partner in terms of having a relationship with them, but by no means, and I want to make sure people understand this, the Miami Herald or the Sun Sentinel, sometimes people think, well, the Miami Herald owns you or the Sun Sentinel owns you. No, I'm 100% shareholder of my company, and what I've been able to do is partner with them through a distribution distribution and circulation agreement, marketing agreement, to distribute and insert my publications.
Okay.
So I pay them. I'm their client.
So as long as you can pay, you got distribution.
That's right.
I got you. I got you.
That's right.
You started.
I will say this: I probably do more business with them than I not to, just throw out some figures and what have you, but I do six figures with, in terms of distribution with, combined with the Herald and the Sun Sentinel.
Wow. And has that made your audience grow, build your audience, really been a great investment for you?
Well, yes, and the thing about it is, it also helps the Hunt Sun Sentinel and the Miami Herald because, at their own admission, they don't do very well with the Black community in
Mhm.
terms of, Black community really reading their publications.
Mhm.
So when my publication is inserted, they do get a spike.
Okay. Okay. And that's probably because, I mean, the Herald's not known for giving us the best light. So
That's right. That's right. That's
you
right.
might you might bring a different edge to it.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. I mean, honestly, the Herald approached me about the idea, back in 2010, and at that point in time, we did have a partnership of some kind where we shared revenue and so
Oh,
forth. But I
okay.
realized that model did not really work for me. It worked well for them, but it didn't work
Right.
well. It didn't work well for me. So I changed that about 2 or 3 years ago. I all of a sudden got smart.
Figured out it's better to keep your own
That's right. That's
practice.
right.
I'm with you. Now you started this company from the ground up, which it could not have been a heavy lift. So I mean, could not have been an easy lift. Is what I'm trying to say. I would imagine that you have had to build into your model pivot plan, potential risks, potential emergencies. What does that look like for a small media group or a small publication, that is sort of probably always shifting and adapting to the market?
Well, in 2008, when we had the recession, I
Mhm.
was, coasting along, doing very, very well. And 2008 hit, no one saw it coming, and it changed the way media, the landscape of media forever.
Mhm.
So at that point in time, I said, you know what? I'm never going to get caught in that situation again. And let me tell you something. I worked hard, I worked smart. It didn't matter. No one was buying. No one was. No, the advertisers. There just weren't. Advertisers didn't have any money. No
Right,
one. Remember,
right,
banks didn't have any money, so no one was advertising. So, for many, many years, I continued to put out the publication,
right.
taking from my left pocket, which is Dexter Bridgeman, and putting it into my business. I'd always say, if I was a loan shark, I'd have broke my own legs. Because I never pay,
It's not the
that's why you
greatest
never
business
pay yourself back. That's part of being an entrepreneur. That comes with the risk of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of times, oh man. Okay, okay, okay. That was getting juicy. Okay, he'll be coming back, I'm sure. Because I definitely want to ask him a lot about the the media today is actually become a celebrity among itself. So what are his thoughts about where that's going to go? Let's see. Hold on. Um, okay. So, thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll hang out with us for a little while. We definitely want to make sure that we continue the conversation. Yeah. So, if you will give us a moment, I just texted him to say we lost you again. So, if you can come back in, that would be great. In the meantime, I'll try to keep chatting. I hope everyone has been enjoying these segments. And while we have a quick moment, I did want to let you know, oh, he's coming. So hold on. Hey, you may, I have to be quick on my feet. I have to think.
That was on me. That was on me right there.
I was like, oh, I got to come up with some banter.
So, yeah, so, as I was saying, now advance yourself now 10 plus years. You
Mhm.
take the necessary precautions. You say,
Right.
I'm going to be caught with my pants down. So what I end up doing, because of course, we all know that the print industry, a lot of, suffered.
Mhm.
And, so the industry was going towards digital.
Mhm.
So I evolved and put in a game plan to go digital,
Okay.
where now we're doing some pretty unique things and pretty successful things on the digital format, like doing a newsletter and having a digital issue of the publication. And we've grown the subscriber base digitally to over 60,000 subscribers.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, so right now, the media is sort of the star during this pandemic. It's been heralded everything from the hero of the day, keeping the information flowing and going, to listen to some people, fake news. So, what are your feelings about the opportunities in the media field, in the publishing field, especially small publications under this kind of dynamic that we're living in today?
Well, I think you can, if you're if you're a small publication, or even if you're a large publication, first of all, yes, we're reporting on every show, every newspaper, every CNN, CNBC, Fox News, and even the local stations. Every minute of their content is basically about coronavirus, because it's a worldwide issue that we have. It's a very dangerous time. It's no one really has the answers. So I think everyone is trying to be unique and different in terms of trying to disseminate their information, and we're no exception to that. We're doing some unique and different things ourselves. So part of what we have started to do, and I want to say, I'm not going to say that we are the first, but certainly one of the first to do this. We have been sending out newsletters 3 times a week, where
Mhm.
we give updated daily information from the CDC, the state of Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties, updated to the minute. So if there's something that's changing, we're changing that information daily. We're changing it minute by minute, and we submit that information, as I said, 3 times a week. But
Okay.
as far as the information is evergreen, so you can go on our website, and if you want to know what's going on with the CDC. I mean, there are obviously other organizations and other entities that are doing it. They may take it from a county perspective or take it from a state perspective, but we're doing it from an aggregates perspective. We're putting all that information in under one umbrella. So
Okay.
I think that's
So
what
you're a
makes
one-stop
it.
shop.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you can be a
So
one-stop shop for all the information that you need.
exactly, and we even have all the information on stimulus, information on what's happening with Black and Brown people, sections in our newsletter.
Mhm.
So it's if you want to read about what's happening in Broward County or Palm Beach or the state of Florida or the CDC, or you want to find out what's the latest with Black and Brown people, how COVID-19 is impacting Black and Brown people, you can find that information out as well.
Okay.
So,
Um, in your
yeah.
in your pivot plan, so that's interesting. Um, has that become, and tell me if I'm being nosy, a revenue stream for you, or have you also been able to identify some opportunities during this time to kind of help generate revenue for you as well during
Well,
this?
certainly it has, and essentially, we've gotten a few more medical types of advertisers on our newsletters, because of COVID. Just yesterday, I received some information. So a company that wanted to, or is interested in advertising for sickle cell anemia
Okay.
drug. So things of that nature, people who are seeing that there's synergy here. So as it goes out, and the thing about it also, you need to, you want to make sure that you're getting through to people.
Right.
And I definitely know, and I think, and I know that we are, because of the obviously of the comments that we get, and then of course who it's coming from as well.
Okay. Okay. Did you yourself apply for some of the grants and the loans that were out there and available to, small businesses?
No, I didn't. I didn't apply for stimulus. God has been good. I've been blessed, And we're doing really well. The last couple of years have been really, really good for us. We came into this year doing very well. And I looked at some projections, 30, 60, 90, all the way up until the end of the year, and looked at some of even though we've lost advertisers, and that's bound to happen because business is down, and companies, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's like Carnival Cruise Lines or whatever the case may be, airlines, they're not able to do that type of advertising anymore. But we do have contracts with certain advertisers, and picking up new ones. And this is a political year, and political campaigns are are really a bounty.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
bounty for us. So again, as I looked at the projections and saw where we are and where I'm predicting we will be, I said, you know what? I don't want to take a dollar out of this because there are other people out there who need it more than I do.
Yes. Now let's talk about BOMA. You are, as I read, a founding member of BOMA. Could you tell us what that is and how that is going and supporting organizations right now during this really pivotal time?
Look, certainly. Back in 2015, I made a
Hello?
call.
Oh,
There's about 15 Black-owned media outlets, companies in South Florida, and we all knew each other. I would see Tony Lassane Media Group. I would see Sandy of Gospel Truth. I would see Robert Beatty of South Florida Times, and the sort Peter Webley of Caribbean Today, and we'd all see each other. Hey, man, let's get together. Let's have a drink. Let's talk some business sometime. Yeah, sure, no problem. Let's make it happen. And it never happens. Right? So I got tired of that. So I called everybody to a meeting and said, we need to come together, because when I look at the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel and some of the other more general market publications, I see ads in there that we don't have.
Right,
And
right.
I've been chasing these same companies for years, and I'm not able to get anywhere. So I said, collectively, if we go after them and show them that there's strength in numbers, they can't ignore us. They may
Absolutely.
ignore Dexter Bridgeman, MI Media Group, but they're not going to ignore the strength of a 12-member entity that
Right.
represents over 2.2 million readers,
Mhm.
listen to the radio, and people watch black-owned TV in South Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So if your demographic or your numbers are only, let's say, 50,000 or 25,000, that's good for you, but it may not be good enough for an advertiser who wants to reach millions. But when
Right.
we collectively say you can reach all of us by buying into us collectively, now you really have some power.
Oh, nice.
And then,
And did that result in really great opportunity for everyone? And
yeah.
how is that today?
Well,
Yeah.
the thing about it too is this, and we'll tell when we go in there and make an agency presentation to a particular advertiser, we realize that they may not be able to advertise at every one of us, and we also understand that because their demographics and what they're looking at may be Caribbean. I'm not Caribbean. My publications are not targeted at the Caribbean community, or it may be targeted at a younger audience. My
Mhm.
audience is not necessarily younger, so as long as somebody gets some business, we're all happy.
Okay, that's
You know,
good. So you work as a collaborative and sort of a collective, a co-op of sorts.
exactly,
Good.
precisely. And then also, from an editorial perspective, many times when the general media, when they are covering the Black community, sometimes they make accusations, sometimes they do and say things that
Uh-huh.
are not necessarily true, or they put it out there on Front Street, but they never clean it up afterwards. So
Right.
you know what? We're going to make sure that we hold them responsible for that, or we will go back and say, you know what? Even though the general media said X, Y, Z, A, B, or C, the truth be told, that
This is what.
those accusations were false. They don't come back and tell you that. They don't report that. Hey, yeah, I know a month ago we talked about so and so, but guess what? You know. the accusations, or the story that we told wasn't exactly the way it finished.
Right. And
And
I kind of consider publications like yours a balancer. You're able to tell about a much more balanced story. That's always been my argument there's always this perception that comes out of mainstream media that certain communities are horrible. You're going to die if you walk in the neighborhood. But I think publications like yours will give a better perspective, a fairer perspective. So,
yeah, yeah, and that's very true. I mean, in terms of what we do, we don't cover crime, or we don't
mm,
cover any type of social agenda. I mean, our mission is very, very clear. We editorialize the success and the achievement of the Black community, the heroes and sheroes. We're not talking about LeBron James or Dwayne Wade from a sports perspective or whatever. We're talking about ordinary people, that extraordinary teacher, that extraordinary police officer, that extraordinary doctor or lawyer or accountant.
mhm,
Then
mhm.
you know what I mean. Those
Yeah.
people, their
Yeah.
stories are not
But
being
that's
told.
the balance. That's the balance. If you see only one side and one perspective, you don't see there's another, then people have a perception that's not quite right, you
That's
know,
absolutely
in my opinion. So let me go back to the emergency plan. I'm very intrigued by what an emergency plan might look like. I've been in a couple of workshops, small business workshops where they talk a lot about emergency plans, but all of it's centered around South Florida hurricanes. What does This is a little bit different. So
right.
I'm sure the perspective would be different. But even in a hurricane, what would an emergency plan for an information, an industry built on giving information? What would that look like? How could you plan for that? You still got to be in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it was when we had the last hurricane was about 2 or 3 years ago.
Mhm, mhm,
um, you put those things in, you plan for those things. So we worked with FP&L. We worked with an agency called Sunshine, Bernadette Morris,
oh,
and
yeah.
they were constantly issuing press releases or giving constant updates. So amongst ourselves, amongst BOMA, also with my company, we were constantly disseminating that information on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, to our community to make sure that everyone had up to date information. Because obviously a lot of people were powerless in terms of their homes and what have you, and they were also giving schedules of when this particular neighborhood was going to come back online and what have you. We were providing all that information. So you have to have a contingency plan for those type of situations. We are an important news gathering organizations, and a news disseminating information as well to our community.
So
And
you
like,
always have to be
yeah,
ready, ready.
yeah, I mean, like that, you say, like, you hear the eyes are the eyes are windows to the soul. Well, the eyes are window, the black press are the eyes and the windows to the Black community.
That's true because that's where we trust our information to come from, for sure.
That
Now, as
is.
an entrepreneur, are you ever concerned, overwhelmed, afraid, or just the news has to go on and that's what carries you through the challenges and the opportunities?
Repeat that one more time. I'm sorry, I didn't really understand the question.
As an entrepreneur, are you ever concerned, overwhelmed, um, afraid of how to keep the news flowing, how to keep the business afloat, how to sustain it?
Well, I was like that again. 2008. I was, it was a really, really scary moment. But
Mhm.
again, we learned from that. There are certain things that will happen that are beyond your control in business, and you just try to deal with them the best that you can. In terms of making those type of decisions. I mean, I don't think there's anything that could have prepared you for what the COVID-19 situation.
Absolutely.
I mean, this pandemic, there's nothing that you could have done. Nothing. There are some companies that are doing very well still.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
there's some, I mean, Walmart and Publix and Amazon, they're making a fortune
this
because
is big.
everybody's
Yeah,
staying home and ordering. Make companies in like Macy's and Bloomingdale's and those type of big box stores, they're doing
right,
horrible because,
right.
you know,
Nobody's going shopping.
yeah.
It's not essential.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, you just try to do as much, you try to be smart about it. As I said, I have, as far as doing contingency planning I have, and you got to evolve and adapt and being able to pivot.
Mhm.
And even with regards to, I'll give you a quick example. So, my last issue of my publication, which came out last week, Wednesday, that issue, going into that was my power issue. That was supposed to be my most successful issue. Well, I had a number of advertisers that pulled out, okay,
Goodness.
because of COVID.
Mhm.
But I had to think on my feet and think very, very quickly. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go after these politicians that are in office and those who are running for office because now you need leadership now more than ever. And I went
Absolutely.
to them and I said, you know what? I need you to do an ad in my publication, but it's not the type of ad you pump your chest. It's about what you're doing as a leader in our community. And
Mhm.
Lord behold, it was an embarrassment of riches because all of these politicians wanted to say, because they're not able to go out and shake hands and kiss babies and
Right.
rub elbows with the community. So this is their opportunity. I gave them an opportunity to say what they're doing to our community. So
Okay.
you've got to be able to pivot. You've got to be able to think fast on your feet. When there is not an opportunity here, you got to look. You got to think hard and pivot and create an opportunity somewhere else that didn't exist before.
Right.
That's what being an entrepreneur is all about. Taking, when somebody gives you lemons, you make some lemonade out of it.
Right. Well, whether you want to or not, huh? You got to. What are you learning about yourself and your company and your industry during this time of COVID-19?
Well, I learned that you know um, these I am a survivor.
Okay.
When I say I'm a survivor, I'm being hey, uh, on a per basis, I'm probably doing better. I mean, these companies are a lot bigger than I am, but I haven't laid off anybody. I mean, when I
Yeah.
look at the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel, geez, they're huge companies, huge organizations with a lot of staff and what have you. But it's all relative. You understand what I mean? It's
Mhm.
all
Absolutely.
relative. They're they're I do the same thing. I have a design team. I have an editorial team.
Mhm.
We have a sales team. But you know what? We're a heck of a lot smaller. But
And
we got to
leaner.
do the same thing and leaner. But we got to do the same thing that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, you know what? Bigger is not, just because they're bigger doesn't necessarily mean that they have better processes. You
Right.
understand what I mean?
I feel like this has been a leveling. It's leveled the playing field. Like you're saying, everybody now is having to look at how to become lean. But as a small business, you already had to be lean because
That's
you
right.
were
That's
pulling
right.
money out of the left pocket
That's
and
right.
putting it in the right
Well,
hand.
as a small business owner, sometimes you're gambling with there's no 401k, you're gambling with the money that you have in your bank. As I said, 2008, hey, whatever money Dexter Bridgeman had as an individual, I had to loan that to my company. I had to give that to my
Right.
company.
To stay
So
afloat.
hopefully those days will never come back again. But
Exactly.
but again, this, if you're not prepared, but as I said, no one is prepared for something like this, like this
Absolutely.
pandemic, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But has it, I spoke to Danielle St. Louis yesterday from BBIF Florida Bank, and she talked a lot about telling small businesses they need to really be very lean, look at their expenses, really look at their financials. But it sounds like you were already sort of in that game because you were so impacted in 2008. You already were sort of on the cusp of understanding that, or have you had to adjust some of your budgetary needs as well?
Well, you're always, especially like I said, even though, I'm, I'm within my financial goals and what have you, and I'm not suffering. At the same time, you still have to be very careful about how you're spending your money because at this point in time, you can't make you don't ever want to make huge financial mistakes, but you
Right.
certainly don't want to make them in this particular period of time because the recovery on that will never be. It'll take too long for that. Things like, you have companies out here that used to pay you. I mean, talking about big companies, large companies, that would pay you in 30 to 45 days. Now they're taking 60 to 90 days to pay you.
Right.
And part of
Right.
that is because they're everybody's working from home, and they're where they, I mean, so who's the message or the communication line, that thread from
Mhm.
from accounts payable to to that particular person, to accounts payable, to sending out the check, and the payment is just taking a lot longer because they're not under one roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you definitely have to watch how you're spending your money because it's not coming in as quickly as it used to.
Okay.
But
So, in the era of fake news, which is a term we've all heard, um, in the use, typically it just means somebody that doesn't agree with you. However, has that opened up opportunities when you're thinking through how you can create new products, how you can create new opportunity for yourself? I know at one point there was supposed to be a news stream that was supposed to be truer, I guess. What does that look like to you? Are there opportunities there, or for you, it's we're going to continue to do what we're doing because we are giving the right information?
Yeah, exactly right. When it comes to fake news, and I say this all the time, I'm thinking about even trademarking it or putting on a T-shirt or something like that. No one has ever accused the black media of fake news. No one. I've never heard anyone accusing black-owned media, whether it's here, whether it's in Washington D.C., whether it's in Chicago or whatever. We tell it straight, and we tell
Just
it to our community the way it is, because you know what, we have a 90% rate in terms of the acceptance rate from our community, so we
right.
don't do anything to jeopardize that.
Good.
So
Okay, I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. I think I got all the information I wanted to get. And hopefully, we will hear from you again in the future for sure. I want to say thank you publicly for, you kind of gave me my first start at writing in the
uh,
world. So I really want to thank you for
look at you now.
that. I got you all over the world telling you thank you. And the minute I called you, you immediately said, yes, tell me what I need to do. Always been super supportive. So I really thank you for that. And I did want to make sure I say that before we leave. Before we leave, how can we find you?
Okay, we're on the World Wide Web, www.miamediagroup.com. And we also are all over social media, with regards to being on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as well, at the MIA Magazine.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you again. And we'll definitely invite you back because we want to hear what's going on later as we get past COVID.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us and being patient with us as we figured out our technology. As I was mentioning, we are about to sort of create a new platform to be able to really share with the audience more of these wonderful segments around the pivot plan, the emergency plan, when it comes to small businesses who've had to adapt during this challenging time, or just in general have to learn how to adapt. So thank you. Stay tuned Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we will be joined by Sandy Dorsonville. She is the executive director of the Little Haiti Cultural Center. So I'm very interested to find out how an event venue is able to sustain during times like this. And most importantly, if you can sustain, and what are some creative opportunities to really sort of stay relevant, if you will. So thank you again. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock and have a great day.